My finance lied about having children. His cousins ran up to him and called him daddy, in front of everyone. His ex was there too. I stopped the wedding. Am I the a-hole? I, a 32-year-old woman, am still trying to process what happened at my wedding 3 days ago. What should have been the happiest day of my life turned into a nightmare when I discovered my fiancé, James, who's 36, had been hiding 2 children from me for our entire 3-year relationship. James and I met through a mutual friend at a charity event. He was charming, successful, and seemed completely transparent about his life. When we discussed our futures, he said he'd never been married and had no children, but wanted to start a family with me. We got engaged last year, and everything was perfect until our wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful. We'd chosen a lovely garden venue, and everything was going according to plan. Just as we were about to exchange vows, 2 young children, maybe 5 and 7 years old, ran up to the altar yelling, "Daddy, Daddy!" I thought they must have confused James with someone else, but the look of absolute horror on his face told a different story. A woman I'd never met quickly followed the children, trying to quietly collect them, but it was too late. The little girl had already wrapped her arms around James's legs, and the boy was excitedly telling him about losing his tooth last week. James was frozen, pale as a ghost, while our 200 guests sat in stunned silence. I looked at James, waiting for him to explain, to say this was some kind of misunderstanding. Instead, he knelt down and whispered something to the children, then looked up at me with pleading eyes. That's when the woman who'd followed them spoke up. She apologized for the interruption, explaining that the kids had spotted their father and gotten excited. Their father. My fiancé was their father. It turns out this woman, Lisa, was James's ex-girlfriend from 8 years ago. The children were supposed to be at their grandmother's house during the wedding, but plans had changed last minute. Lisa had been invited as a family friend by James's parents, who, I now realized, had been complicit in hiding this secret from me. The worst part? James had been actively involved in his children's lives this whole time. All those business trips and family obligations were actually his weekends with his kids. His parents' house, where he would sometimes house visit, was where he spent time with them. Those cousins he occasionally mentioned buying Christmas and birthday presents for, his own children. Standing there in my wedding dress, I felt like I was in some twisted nightmare. 3 years of lies unraveled in front of everyone we knew. I walked straight to the microphone and announced that the wedding was canceled. I apologized to our guests for the waste of their time and thanked them for coming, but I couldn't marry a man who had hidden 2 entire human beings from me. James tried to stop me as I walked back down the aisle, saying he could explain everything. He claimed he'd been afraid to tell me about his kids because his last relationship ended when his girlfriend couldn't accept them. He said he'd planned to tell me after the wedding when I was already legally bound to him, as if that somehow made it better. His parents cornered me in the bridal suite as I was collecting my things, begging me to reconsider. They said they only went along with his lie because they wanted him to be happy, and they thought I would be a good mother to their grandchildren. I couldn't believe they thought ambushing me with instant motherhood on my wedding day was somehow acceptable. The aftermath has been chaos. Half of our guests had no idea James had children, while the other half apparently knew and had been sworn to secrecy. My own parents are devastated, having spent a small fortune on this wedding. My friends are divided. Some think I overreacted and should have heard him out in private, while others are appalled by the scale of his deception. James has been alternating between apologizing and trying to justify his actions. He keeps saying that everything else about our relationship was real, that he truly loves me, and that his children would love me too if I gave them a chance. But how can I believe anything he says now? He didn't just lie about his past, he actively constructed an elaborate web of deception about his present life. What kills me is thinking about all the signs I missed. The way he would sometimes have to abruptly end our phone calls, the occasional toys I spotted in his car that he claimed belonged to his cousins, the fact that he never wanted me to meet certain friends or visit particular places. He built our entire relationship around hiding his children's existence. I've been staying with my sister, trying to process everything. James's family is still trying to convince me to talk to him, saying I'm punishing innocent children by walking away. But I don't see how I can trust someone who could lie so comprehensively for 3 years. These weren't small lies. This was a calculated deception about the existence of two human beings who should have been the most important people in his life. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing this situation in front of everyone and walking away? Should I have handled it more discreetly once I realized what was happening? I feel justified in my reaction, but the weight of all these opinions is making me question everything. Thanks for listening to Reddit. Am I the a-hole stories? Please subscribe and comment your thoughts.